Hey, and welcome to this 8th episode of the Pearl Dialogues. My name is Wazee, and I'm a student of the Diamond Approach. And in this podcast, me and Elin, who is my co-host, have conversations with teachers in this school. For those of you who are new to the Diamond Approach, it is a school that explores the nature of reality. It explores our human potential and the adventure of consciousness, including the adventure of being human. So today we have a very interesting conversation where I talk to Andreas, who is a long-term teacher in the school, and we touch upon different topics, including competition and what role that plays versus cooperation and the connection there. We talk about Andreas' experience of himself. So we actually begin this podcast from the deep end, where he opens up his soul and shares with us how he is experiencing himself, basically. I find things like that very interesting, and it's really relevant with the work that we do in our school. We also talk about hatred and the transformation of hatred and how that transforms into, you'll find out in the podcast. A couple of announcements or sharings before we enter. I would actually like to get to know you, the listeners. Some of you have listened to many of our episodes so far. And with that, I have created a feedback form that it would be so nice if you would take the time to fill out after listening to this podcast or before. That way I can get to know you and I can get some feedback, both constructive and general feedback about how you experience this podcast. At the bottom, you can also tick off if you are open to me contacting you and having a conversation with you. It's very helpful for me to talk with you listeners and to really find out who are you. That helps inform me and inform this podcast and its further development and movement into the future. Another thing that I want to note is that at the beginning of every episode, you've heard a jingle. It's a music piece. And that's actually me playing the harmonium. I play the harmonium. But now I am looking for a musician who would be willing to contribute with a theme song for the Pearl Dialogues. So if you hear this message and this touches you, please reach out to me on welcome@yodacommunity.org, which you can find in the descriptions. And you also find the feedback form in the descriptions. And reach out to me and maybe we can create something that can be the theme song for these Pearl Dialogues. That's all I had to say. This podcast episode is about 1 hour and 45 minutes in total. So if you want to chop it up, listen to it through all the way from the beginning, the first time, it's completely up to you. Like always, I invite you to really be in touch with your experience, sense yourself throughout the podcast, and really participate in the conversation. With that, I say thank you and much love. I want to open this episode by asking you, what's happening for you right now, Andreas?
Well, we just did a few minutes of meditation. And so I became more aware of the depth of what I really am. And then you rang the bell. And as I opened my eyes, I saw your face, and you were still with your eyes closed. And then as you opened your eyes, there was a spontaneous, joyful smile that came out. So it is a combination of the depth. I'm still aware of the depth of what I am. and the manifestation of this joyful, playful manifestation that is here between us.
Mm. Mm. It touches me in my heart when you speak, and I feel this sense of connection. I feel the connectedness in our field and
Mhm.
the heartful quality that's in it. And with it, I also notice that there is a quality of pleasure,
Uh-huh.
a lightness of vibration. And it's very interesting that this is emerging now, because today in particular, but also yesterday, on a personality level, I've been feeling a bit down, a bit heavy, and also
Mm.
experiencing frustration, which has to do with in one aspect of my life. When it comes to my career, there is an element of a strong element of uncertainty and lacking a sense of clear direction of where I want to go.
Uh-huh.
So it's very interesting to be intimate with my personal thread, which is still unfolding, which is so real for me on a personal level, and simultaneously be here with you in our depth and also in this very beautiful sense of connection.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. And let's see how that question that you are holding about your life and your career might also become part of this interaction and unfold in its own way.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And when you speak of depth, when you speak of joy, in this moment for you, what is depth? What does
Depth. Yeah.
depth mean?
Yeah. Very good question. Yeah. Uh, Depth is one of those words that have a deep meaning for me. It's like on the surface, if you ask me, who are you? I would tell you my name. There is the history, where I come from, and the different events of my life. Huh? But if we go underneath that surface, that facade, that personality, as we call it, huh? Who am I underneath the history, underneath the conditioning, underneath the cultural influences, the historical influences, the psychodynamic influences that form this personality on the surface? So, for me, when I look deeper, I find that, I am a consciousness. And this consciousness is an individual consciousness, and we can call it, I am a soul. I'm a unique soul that has this unique manifestation, unique expression that also becomes a personality. Yeah, it's all one. But as I recede deeper and deeper into this consciousness, into this soul, and I question, look with my consciousness, look inquire into, but what is this consciousness? There is a depth, there is a deepening, there is you can say there is a journeying where I journey deeper into myself and discover deeper and deeper and deeper aspects, dimensions of what I am. Yeah, it's like taking this ring, and on the surface you can say, well, oh, nice shape, it's a symbol, nice shape ring. Okay, great, wonderful. Okay, but what is it? What is it what is it made of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, well, it's gold. Oh, it's gold. Okay. So now we know something deeper. It's the true nature of this ring is gold. Yeah. But what is gold? Well, you can say, well, it is a particular element on the periodic system, on the periodic table, right? And has this many, electrons and this many protons and so on. I mean, all the chemical composition. But what is it? What is it? Well, it's made of atoms. Atoms. So you see, we are going deeper and deeper now. We are exploring the deeper nature of this ring is atoms. Wow. Particular kind of atoms. But what are they made of? Well, they are made of, 99% empty space. And the remaining are just these particles, And so you can continue inquiring deeper and deeper. But what are these particles? Well, depending on which theory you look into, modern physics, you may say, well, string theory. Okay, so these particles are made of strings. What are strings? They are vibrating. Vibrating what? Vibrating nothing.
Can I share something on that? Because I mean, we use so many words in this world to describe reality, and we define reality through words. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what comes up for me when we talk about atoms and we talk about 99% empty space, it can easily become so abstract, right? It can become concepts upon concepts, and it can make us become more distant from like the immediacy of what's happening in this very moment.
Yeah.
So I am so curious about this very question in terms of the depth manifesting in this very moment, in our exchange right now.
Right.
So we have that thread of being able to inquire into the nature of things, the nature of physical things, and in this very moment we're inquiring into reality as it is right now. So I feel that I'm very much drawn to ask you this question about who am I? Who would you say Andreas is? Who are you in the way that you know yourself, in the way that you experience yourself?
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so in the same way that we can explore the gold ring at the surface and go deeper and deeper and find out it is actually empty space. In the same way, as I look deeper and deeper into myself and I see, the personality is on the surface and there is this consciousness. But what is this consciousness? When I dive into this consciousness here in this moment, the depth is a black emptiness. That is a intimate closeness to myself. And if we dive deeper into that emptiness, it's a mysterious kind of emptiness. That is a blackness that almost loses its spatial dimension. And it is actually an intimate nothingness that is black and mysterious. And you cannot say what it is exactly. And so we say things like, it's a mystery. It's a, and you can say it's nothing, it's potential, it's all kinds of words. But those are, like you said, they're intellectual concepts, but the experience itself is a very intimate closeness to myself that is quiet, still, peaceful, settled, nothing.
Wait, that's wonderful.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that nothing is like it's continually bursting forth. Yeah, bursting forth into what we are here right now, into our whole world, and into individually is bursting forth into Andreas, what Andreas is in this moment.
Yeah.
But really speaking, Andreas, this morning, here, this moment, is not the same Andreas that was here yesterday. It's a spontaneous, alive, continually emerging something, manifestation, expression of that depth, of that nothing, of that mystery. Yeah. And so when we know that mystery, when we actually experience it, not know it intellectually, but experience it, it's like we have a base. We have a foundation. We have a home base. Yeah, this is my home. Yeah. People ask me sometimes, where are you from? I am from here, from this depth.
Yeah.
That is my country. That is my origin.
That is my country. That is my origin. And for context, the people listening to this, you could say that we started at this from the deep end, getting our scuba diving equipment and really diving into the moment, diving into ourselves with I like to use that metaphor actually, that you can kind of be on the surface of the water, you can get your snorkel and then you can dip down a little bit. And we got the scuba diving equipment and just dive straight to the bottom, straight to the ground. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And it speaks to the many layers of us as human beings. And I feel I am very moved by your unique expression as Andreas. I do feel that you bring a lot of joy into this world. You bring joy into my heart with who you are and the unique expression that you are as a soul on this planet, as a human being on this planet. Yeah. So
yeah. So that is the beauty of our world, of our universe, is that this mysterious depth manifests itself in a myriad forms. And each one of us is a unique, unrepeatable expression of that mystery, and some part of that potential of that mystery.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that really, I think, attracted me to the Diamond approach, is that, the mystery is the central discovery. But this mystery, which is common to all of us, that is where we are all the same, at that depth. But this path values also the surface, So this mystery manifests as a unique individual, and this unique individual is valued in our path, in the Diamond approach. It is not like an illusion, or it's not like something to get rid of. It's not something irrelevant, but it is actually very relevant. The mystery is manifesting its potential, its mystery, its treasures as this universe. And each one of us is one of these manifestations, a treasure of the mystery.
And you mentioned, how the mystery, the relevance of the mystery, and also what brought you onto this path of the diamond approach. And I'm curious, you've been on this path for many, many years now. You're a teacher, you're an ordained teacher, you're teaching many groups, and obviously forever a student of the path. What would you say are some of the, if you would like to share some of the personal struggles or the difficulties that you perhaps met early on your journey? If you could share some personal stories about some of your difficulties on this path and how you see that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, the exploration has always been a mixture of challenge, and usually that's how it always starts, a challenge that arises in life. Yeah. And as we explore the challenge, we discover that it holds a treasure inside. Yeah. So I remember one of the early challenges for me, I was going through a difficult time when I came to this work back in 1988. And at some point my teacher said, so you hate that person. And I just was so surprised. No, I don't hate anybody. So I had a belief about myself that I'm a nice person. I'm a good person. I don't hate people. I love people. I've been a spiritual seeker since I was a teenager. I walked, different paths, and so it took me a while actually to really begin to feel my hatred. I remember actually my teacher gave me a task. He says, "What are you doing this weekend?" We were doing a session, and I said, this weekend I'm off. I am not doing anything. My children are with their mother and so on. And he said, "So I want you to get a particular movie, The Crow, and watch it." And so I got this movie, The Crow, which is a story about a man that is walking with his fiancée, and these, gangsters attack them, and they rape his fiancée in front of him, then they kill her, and then they kill him. So he comes back as a crow. His soul comes back and picks each one of them one at a time, and kills them. And the whole movie was so full of hatred that at first I had difficulty really watching it. I was like, whoa, But I just kept watching the movie. I don't remember how many times I watched it over the weekend, probably, 6-7 times. And gradually I started really touching into that hatred, which was such a contradiction in comparison to my self-image, the belief about myself that I'm a good person, I'm a loving person. But I discovered that inside, underneath that love, which is also true, and that good person, there was also a lot of hatred. And that was a big challenge for me, because it felt that if I accept this hatred, if I have so much hatred in me, then how can I be a good person? How can I be a loving person? There was the fear that the hatred will destroy the love. Yeah. So it was a struggle for a few months for me to really make peace with this hatred and allow myself to feel it and actually go deeper in it. And to my surprise, the hatred actually led to a sense of peace. It transformed. Yeah, it changed. So inside the hatred, there was a treasure. And that's one of the things that I love about this path, is that any experience in life, even the worst, what we consider the worst, like being hateful, have in them something to teach us, some treasure, some truth that they can reveal to us. Yeah. So our hatred, my hatred, became actually a main doorway into peace, which is very close. This peace brings us very close to that depth that we touched in earlier on, that mystery, because that peace is a black presence that is very still, very quiet, very settled. And from there, it's just a little, it's like a continuum into the complete mystery. So that's one of the challenges that was there for me at the beginning. I think that's a difficult thing for most people, confronting our hatred and accepting our hatred, and then staying with the hatred, inquiring into it and working with it. And there is an alchemical process that the Diamond Approach teaches us, that if we actually stay present to an experience, not staying with the experience in the sense of wallowing in it or identifying with it, that doesn't do much. But if we stay present to it, it's like being aware, remaining aware of what we are, a presence, and staying present to the experience. That presence transforms that experience. It opens it up, and alchemically, it reveals the depth of the experience. It reveals what's underneath it. Yeah? So if we go into the hatred, for example, you will find, most of us will find that inside the hatred, there may be fear. There may be a sense of powerlessness, or there may be a deep hurt, that somebody hurt me very deeply. And so the hatred is an attempt to defend myself against this hurt and not allow the hurt to happen again. Also, the hatred is intending to destroy the other person so that they cannot hurt me again, or hurt them at least, so that they know what it feels like to be hurt. Yeah. So they won't do it again. So you see, when we really go into usually we say the hatred, no, don't feel it, that's bad. It is true that hatred can be very bad in the sense that if we act it out, if we actually act the hatred out and engage in hateful actions, like shooting people and hurting people and, on a grander scale, going to war, countries invading other countries and, killing, a lot of people. So hatred can be very destructive, of course, so we don't want to act it out. But if we don't explore it, if we don't understand it, if we don't open it up and find what is this made of, what is this a reaction to, what is this trying to do, and then go deeper and find, oh, I'm hurt. Well, when I'm hurt, when I'm hurt, is it hatred that I need? Or is it compassion that I need? What would heal my heart, my wound? Hatred? Hatred doesn't heal the heart. Hatred encases the heart in an icy hardness. You know, I remember Hamid saying that the heart encased in hatred, you cannot hurt it. It's, the hatred becomes a protection, you know. Mm-hmm. But it's a protection that also closes down the heart. And then we cannot feel. We cannot be sensitive. We cannot be attuned to other people or even to ourselves. And of course, you know, the heart is what makes us human more than anything else. You know, it's not our mind. Our mind is important. But what makes us truly human is really the heart. We even say, you know, I mean, a person that is not intelligent, we don't say it's, you know, she or he are inhuman. We say, you know, they are stupid or they are this or that. You know, we have different names. But a person that is insensitive to others, that hurts others, we say they are inhuman. Very interesting. That the heart, actually, we know, all of us, we know that the heart is what defines us, is what makes us human more than anything else.
I feel there are many pathways we could take from here. You've touched on so many points, huh? Wonderful, wonderful sharing. What you share about the hatred, the compassion, and this last point about how having heart is what makes a human. And I've been thinking about that, reflecting on that, because a parallel that comes to me is I've seen animals with heart.
Yeah.
I've seen dogs with heart. So I feel that it is a characteristic that can also, maybe not all dogs necessarily, or maybe I don't know really. I feel I'm open to it because I definitely know I've seen dogs who've seen someone suffering, maybe their owner, and they've moved into caressing the owner or supporting the owner one way or the other, which for me shows a lot of heart.
Right, absolutely.
So it's clear that animals, or at least some animals, I can imagine dolphins as well, maybe killer whales, also have heart. So I reckon it seems to be a characteristic of multiple species of animals. How do you feel that relates to what you're saying about the heart is what makes humans?
Right. Yeah. You know, all life and life forms are on a continuum. Evolution is a continuum. Life is continually evolving and manifesting different forms and different species and different organisms to express its potential, which is that mystery, manifesting the livingness of that mystery, and then expressing and manifesting the different forms. So it is true, many animals express heartfulness, and yet from what we see, what we know, a human being can express that heart in many more ways. And, as far as we know, a human heart can actually dive into the depth and experience that mystery. We are not aware, I haven't heard of anybody yet being aware that it's like, when you see somebody, that some people have the sensitivity to be aware of, like you were saying earlier, you feel what I was expressing, you feel what I was feeling, right? So many times we can feel into animals and feel, what do they feel?
Yeah.
And as far as I know, nobody has felt that this animal is experiencing the mystery. The closest the closest that I have come to that was, I remember many years ago, I took my little daughter, to the zoo. And we came to the enclosure where there was an elephant. And he was standing there. And I remember I looked at him, and for some reason, we connected. I felt connected to the elephant. And inside, I felt this heaviness. And it was quiet, and it was still. But it was not a mystery. It was a heaviness and a stillness that had a lot of sadness in it.
Which makes sense being in a zoo, huh?
Yeah, and I felt this elephant is trapped here. He's sad.
Yeah.
He's sad. So animals do have feelings. Yeah, and so they have a heart also. But when you think of that animal, it's like, what is their most poignant manifestation? Is it his trunk? Is it the bigness of his body? Or is it that he's able to feel and have a heart? So I think the heart is really the most important thing, because it actually encompasses the sensitivity and can branch into the intelligence and into the depth, into the mystery. But I think as human beings, when we disconnect from our heart, then we cannot be attuned, and we cannot have access to the qualities of the heart that are compassion and love and joy, and then our intelligence can become destructive, without the attunement, without the sensitivity, without the love, without the compassion. What we create then becomes guided by something else. It's not guided by the expression of the highest qualities of a human being. Love, compassion, generosity, kindness, inclusivity, wanting to help each other, cooperation.
Yeah.
Then there is, hardness, and there is hatred, and there is competitiveness, and there is, win-lose kinds of things, situations.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, I find, and what comes to me is the different degrees of union, or the level of union that a human being can experience, the level of union an animal can experience. Can, for instance, a bunny or a rabbit sitting on the plains, closing their eyes, who look apparently completely blissed out, are they experiencing the mystery? Maybe.
I don't know.
There is.
We don't know.
We don't know. So it
Right.
seems to be, and also the degree of intelligence. When you earlier spoke about how the myriad of ways human beings can express the heart is and the variety of ways is very unique to human beings. Although you can also see dogs being able to express a variety of ways. Usually, it seems like human beings are more complex organisms somehow, that allows us to express it with greater degrees of variety, and also, yeah. You want to say?
That is at least that is what we believe. We are human beings. We believe we are better.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is another characteristics of human beings, no?
Whether the dolphin or the elephant or the bunny actually experience these things, I don't know. But interesting thing is that, I'm not talking to elephants because they don't understand my language.
Yeah.
I'm talking to human beings, and I'm saying, hey, human beings, my brothers, my sisters, this is what is possible for us.
Yeah.
Let us dive into our depth. Let us experience our depth.
Yeah.
And let us then come from that depth and express the higher qualities of that mystery, of that true nature that we are, the love, the compassion, the joy, the generosity. And let us create a civilization. Let us create a world that is an expression of that, of those qualities, rather than it is an expression of the opposite.
I subscribe
Right?
to that vision, my friend. I
Yes,
subscribe to
very
this
good.
vision. I feel the red thread there for me is, and I know this is a cornerstone of the Diamond approach, and loving the truth and falling
Loving the
in
truth.
love with the truth, and how
Right.
when that opens in a soul, that in of itself becomes such a universal integration into the way one approaches life, and how
Mm-hmm.
one starts to appreciate the full spectrum of experience. And there's another dimension added to life that is not about pleasure or pain, but rather there is a true curiosity, a true devotion, a true interest, a true love for
Right.
life as it is and reality as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that is one of the things that I love about this path. It is a path that is practiced in the world.
Yeah.
So we don't just isolate ourselves. We don't just retreat into a monastery or an ashram or the cave in the Himalayas or whatever. That's fine if people want to do that. I'm not saying it's bad. But this path is a path that is in the world. We practice in the world, and then we endeavor to not only realize our true nature. Realize means to experience it and feel this is what I am. So it becomes reality. That's what realize means. It's not to just have an experience of it here and there, or to believe that's what I am, but it is actually to experientially know it. And know it most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's not only about realization, but it is also about embodiment. So we want to embody that realization, bring it into our bodies, and then our bodies become the vehicle through which then this soul is expressing this realization in the world. So then our actions can become actions of love, actions of compassion, actions of generosity. And then what we create can be actually a positive thing, can be actually something that evolves humanity, that evolves our society, our, the way that we live life on this planet. Because if you look at this point, I mean, what are our societies, built around? They are built around instincts, and primarily the survival instinct. It's all about survival, making money, having sex, multiplying, having more money, and then power, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at it, all of these are actually instinctual drives, instinctual and distortions of the instinctual drives. It's like, the instinctual drive, the survival drive can be distorted by greed, right? But where is the heart in that? So if you look at it, it's like, our society is not operating on the basis of heart, it's operating on the basis of instinctual drives and survival, and then fear and competition and creed and so on and so on. So can we actually create a world? It's probably going to take, a few 100 years, a few centuries maybe. But why not begin to move in that direction? Why not? Why not begin to see the potential? And I think this is what, spirituality, true spirituality, I think, that is not a belief system, and that's the other thing that I like about the Diamond approach is it doesn't ask you to believe anything. Discover for yourself. Actually, many times when I start a new group or I talk to new people, I always tell them, don't believe anything I tell you. If you believe what I am saying, I have failed. Because now I just started creating a new religion, a belief system. No. If you take what I'm saying and you actually become curious and you actually start inquiring and discovering, is it true for you? Is what I'm saying, this mystery, this deep true nature, is it true? If you discover it for yourself, great, wonderful. If you just believe in it,
And not to say that belief is not useful, because on certain legs of the journey, beliefs, exchanging one paradigm for another that is more healthy can actually contribute to a blooming. And I'm speaking in this case from my own experience, because initially early on my journey, I was engaged with this this philosopher and this physicist who suggested that the meaning of life is evolving towards love. And initially, when I heard that and I heard his reasoning for that, I started to believe in it.
Right.
It was through the belief that I eventually began to discover the love. But I needed to start with an entry belief in order to really kickstart me, you could say, in the direction and have a sense of direction, because I didn't have the capacity and the awareness and the wisdom of true curiosity. I hadn't developed my faculties yet. So I also see the role of belief and how it can play a role, a certain leg of the journey, like it's support wheels, and then eventually you have the capacity to truly discover and go beyond that. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that is, that can be seen. Yeah, we can see it that way.
Yeah.
And I prefer it. I prefer it in a little different way.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And the way that I look at it is this: when you heard that physicists say life is evolving towards love, did you believe it, or did you feel something in you resonated with that?
It was both. It was both.
It was both.
A combination,
Right.
Yeah.
So
it was intuitive and also.
It was intuitive, exactly.
Lecture.
Right. Yeah. So I think that we can make a differentiation between a belief that is blindly believed because somebody says, authority says, and faith that is based on some intuition, some experience, some inkling in the human soul that says, oh, life is evolving towards love. Something in my heart immediately when you said that, it's like, oh, so something resonates in that.
Yeah.
And so it reflects a truth that I already know that is not explicitly in me. And I would call that faith.
I see.
Faith in the truth that I already know or that I discover. And I may form a belief about it, but the belief can become actually an obstacle. Because if I believe I already now know the truth, then I close the book and I don't discover new truths.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I mean,
exactly,
riffing on that, any belief that we hold will become an obstacle or is an
exactly,
obstacle
right,
fundamentally. It's just
exactly,
degrees to how
exactly,
how big of an obstruction it is for us. And we have,
exactly, right.
I think the discrimination you made there is wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I prefer to say faith, because faith is a living moment by moment. It's like, okay, maybe I'm not experiencing the mystery right now, but I remember I did experience it many, many times before. So I have faith that the mystery continues to exist. And so I can dive in and I can discover it again and I can connect to it again.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
living thing instead of something that is dead.
right.
Structure, yeah.
Right. And we can see this, I always like to see things instead of black or white as a continuum,
Yeah.
which is more accurate. So you can say that, faith, 100% faith is on this end, and 100% belief is on this end of the spectrum. And somewhere in between there is faith that is mixed with belief,
Hmm.
you know, which is like a mental representation of that faith.
Yeah.
But at the extreme will be a belief that is devoid of faith, that is just not based on reality, not based on experience.
Hmm.
And that kind of belief can become an obstacle.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we talked about hatred, and then we moved in this direction.
Uh-huh.
You talked about how your hatred transformed into peace and maybe other aspects as well. Would you say now that your hate is gone completely?
No. When we say, is your hate gone? It implies that there is a certain quantity of hatred somewhere residing. Is it gone?
Mm.
I don't think there is something like that, a quantity of hatred. Now, how many pounds of hatred do you have? There is no such thing. But rather, the way I perceive it, the way I understand it, is that there is my soul has my consciousness, my individual consciousness, what we call the soul, has the capacity for hatred. So when certain conditions are met, are there, like I'm hurt or I'm, afraid somebody's going to hurt me or whatever, then my soul has a capacity to manifest hatred. My soul still has the capacity to manifest hatred. But because I have many, 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 many times taken that hatred, inquired into it, sensed into the depth of it, and it transformed into peace and true power, the power that, oh, wow, I am actually, wow, I'm not powerful. It's like at the very, when you actually transcend hatred, or the hatred is transformed, it transforms into this peace that is also power. It is a vast, big, massive presence that is black, that feels, wow, there is nothing more powerful in the universe. This is the epitome of power. And when I feel that power, I feel nobody can hurt me. Yeah, people can hurt my body, but nobody can hurt what I really am. So there is a power, and also there is a power to be what I really am. It is the power to be ourselves. It's not power over other people. Power over other people is not what true nature exemplifies. It's not what true nature teaches. Love between people, cooperation, compassion is what true nature teaches, brings forth. So when I feel that power, when I feel that deep power, then it becomes more easy for me over time. It has become more easy when some circumstance arises, instead of moving into hatred, I move into power. See? So in that sense, you can say that there is a lot less hatred in me now. I still have the capacity to hate, but why hate when I can have power? It's like, why have the counterfeit when you can have the real thing? Because hatred is counterfeit power. It's not real power. You know, the hatred inside of it is full of fear.
And so everything you say makes sense to me. That said, as human beings, we're limited, right? So we have egos, and we don't have full control, or we don't have control over our own existence. So out of the blue, hatred can come and can whip us off the pin, and suddenly we are hating, and might even be a blip of identification with that hatred. And
Sure.
it may linger for months, or for a week, or for a day, depending on what is triggered. So I feel that is a very nuanced picture at the same time.
Yes.
Because it's a very wonderful and also a meaningful notion of how hatred is a counterfeit of power, and why have hatred when we have power at the same time. We're not in control. so
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We are limited as human beings, and yet our true nature is unlimited. Yet, boundless.
This is it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to the degree that I'm identified with my humanness, I have limitations.
Yeah.
To the degree that I experience myself as this depth of true nature, this mystery, I'm unlimited, unbounded.
Yeah.
And this is a continuum.
Yeah, exactly. And reality.
And we all, exactly, and we all find ourselves somewhere on this continuum all the time, traveling, right? Yeah. And so being on the path, you see, being a student of the Diamond Approach opens this avenue, this highway, so that we can actually be traveling to our depth and be living our life on the surface without losing this connection to our depth. And so then our life can become more and more an expression of the treasures that lie in this mystery, this depth, what we really are, our true nature.
So riffing onwards from that, what do you see is the role of competition? I know that growing up, I was extremely competitive in sports, in particularly in things that matter to me. Yeah, so football, meaning soccer, and also generally in life, I had this sense of competitiveness. And when we look at our society today, we glorify athletes and people who are famous, and competition also seems to bring or give rise to exceptional brilliance in some cases. When you look at athletes, so many of them are highly competitive, and that competitiveness seems to actually also drive their choices and drive their life somehow into a kind of mastery of a certain domain, a certain sport. So how do you see the role of competition, which I also believe, or I imagine a lot of the people listening can also relate to, because competitiveness can arise at the workplace, it can arise with friends, family, and so forth.
Yeah. Well, this is a very interesting topic, actually, a controversial topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many years ago, I read a book. The title was The Case Against Competition. And this author made the case against competition very clearly. Let me ask you this. You say athletes compete with each other, and that is what makes them, helps them excel. Did Einstein compete against anybody to become excellent? Did Mozart compete against anybody to become excellent? Beethoven? Picasso? Some of the greatest human beings on the planet achieved their greatness not by competing. Actually, they were cooperating with their colleagues. An example is, the human genome. When people started, scientists started the task of mapping the human genome, they thought it was going to take decades. But somehow they actually created a cooperative system. And so the different teams around the world started cooperating with each other. They accomplished the task in a much, much shorter time.
Yeah.
So I think that competition is glorified within a particular socioeconomic political system. When you look at it, and people intuitively, they say, well, yeah, of course, without competition, the athlete will not become. No. Do you play sports? Do you like a sport, a particular sport? Is there one sport that you like?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, for instance, I used to play football, so soccer.
Soccer, yeah. Now, what do you like about it? If you really look at it, is it the competition that you like, or is it the smooth movements? I used to play soccer when I was in high school in Cyprus, and what I loved about it was actually the cooperation between my team, and how we would actually just evade the other people. It was not a competition. The most pleasure I got was when we would just operate so smoothly and just make the goal.
Yeah.
It was not that we won over the other team. Yeah, there was also that. Yeah. But the most pleasure was actually the cooperation and the smooth functioning of the team to achieve the goal.
But I feel this is an important thing as well, because you said it was also that. So I feel we cannot negate that part of ourselves either. So I'm opening the conversation around competition.
Right.
You mentioned examples of people who in some sense was very much in tune with their gift, with their true nature, and it came to expression through Einstein to Pablo Picasso. But if you look at many athletes today, for instance, Michael Jordan, highly competitive human being, Tiger Woods, highly competitive human beings, and some of these people are also controversial, but they developed extreme levels of mastery, and in that mastery you can also see the manifestation of brilliancy at times. So right. I do feel that it's a nuanced picture.
Nuanced picture, yeah.
And you can't kind of just cut it down to competition being bad, cooperation being good, in a black-white kind of sense.
No. I think that probably we can look at it on a continuum again.
Yeah, let's make it a continuum.
It's like, so extreme competition means that I have to win at any cost. And then you see people actually undermining their opponents in order to win. And you see that competition between nations today, where people are willing to go to war and undermine others and sanction and all kinds of crazy things that are really not helpful to humanity.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a spectrum that we need to really become aware and really come from. It's like, where does it come from, this competition? I have to win at your expense. Why? I'm reminded of a story I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is a real story or somebody made it up. Somebody was actually making the case for cooperation. And he said he was some kind of scientist, and he went to in Africa, and he was exploring and studying this particular tribe. And he did an experiment with these children. So there were a bunch of children, and he told them that, okay, we are all going to sit here. And he said, over there, I've put a basket under the tree with a lot of sweets. in them. And when I count to 3, you will all run, and whoever gets there first can take the whole basket of sweets. And the children were puzzled, and they looked at each other. And the man just counted 1, 2, 3. And all the children got up, they held hands, they ran together, they got the basket and distributed the sweets between them. And the man was very curious. He said, why didn't one of you run faster to catch all the sweets and get them and be happy? Then you will be happier. And the children said, how can I be happy if all my friends are not?
For me, this rings true what you're saying, and I've seen that. I've seen that sense of family. I particularly what it reminds me of Africa. Actually, it reminds me of places in Africa where I've been, where they are so attuned to each other, and there is such a deep brotherly love that whatever they have, they share among them in a brotherly fashion, and they enjoy pleasure together, they suffer together. That is the context.
Right.
Now, we've talked about this vision of a new or a civilization that evolves towards love, where cooperation is what defines our connection, and we are living out of love. We're living out of our heart, while at the same time applying all the different faculties of our consciousness, including intelligence, functioning, being efficient, and simultaneously creativity, joy, and so forth. So in this vision, I wonder if let's say we were to evolve greatly as a species, maybe some of these sports would die out. Maybe competition would look like, maybe there wouldn't be that much competition. Maybe it would look very differently, and we would engage in a different way. So it does make, there is a myriad of possibilities.
Myriad of possibilities, yeah. Yeah, it could become that, we play soccer and the emphasis is on the, instead of grading people according to how many goals they made, they grade them according to which team was operating in the smoothest possible way and expressing the highest level of respect to the opposing team. Why can't sport become that?
That's a good question.
Who says it has to be like, just knock your opponent down and hurt them and hit them over the head with to win?
That's a good question.
It's like, as human beings, with expressions and our sports, our businesses, our societies, our way of organizing our economy are all expressions, our political systems, they are expressions of who we are. I think that as we become more of what we really are as human beings, our deeper nature, we discover that our deeper nature is love, is compassion, is intelligence, is joy, is pleasure. Then we begin to actually manifest forms that actually reflect those. It's like if you look at a loving person meets another loving person, and they have a very loving relationship. And they get married, and they have children, and they have a very loving family. Natural extension of that for me is that if enough of us begin to live our true nature, then we'll have a loving family, human family, a loving civilization.
And
you know.
I can hear your passion for that. I can really hear
Yeah,
how you really burn for that vision.
yes.
Yeah.
I think some people may say, that's an utopia,
Yes,
you
some
know.
people would say that.
Yeah, actually, somebody, I think somebody, what is he? He's from Europe somewhere. He wrote a book and he said, some kind of a utopia, a realistic utopia. And they asked him, he said, but this is a utopia, what you're proposing. He says, yes, utopia means it doesn't exist anywhere yet.
Mm.
That's how we progress. We have an ideal that we strive for, we work for, and we move towards. That is how we progress as humanity.
Mm.
We create ideals of democracy, for example, ideals of prosperity for our country, and we move towards that. Why
Yeah.
can't we create ideals of prosperity and cooperation among all human beings so that nobody's left behind?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind is, yeah, I resonate with what you say. And another kind of counterpoint that comes to my mind is how we as human beings often have incomplete ideals in our mind that are not
Right,
true ideals. So we evolve in a skewed way, and we really never we may move towards that ideal, but the ideal in the first place is unwholesome, incomplete, is not mature. So it's
exactly.
really, who can create, in order to manifest an ideal that is appropriate, that is mature, there needs to be inborn or inherent wisdom and love that is already present.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I think that, the Dhamma approach, of course, doesn't prescribe any particular way of organizing our society, doesn't have a political system that it proposes or socioeconomic system or anything like that. It is purely a spiritual path.
Yeah.
However, because it is a path that we live in the world and we express our realization in the world, we can see how that can extend from that depth of realization of the oneness.
Mm.
When we realize we are all one, at that mystery, at that depth, we feel we are all one. It is one being, one superorganism. The whole universe, the whole manifestation, it is one superorganism that is manifesting spontaneously and evolving out of this mystery. When you feel that oneness, then the tendency is, like my body is cooperating, the different organs within my body are cooperating and functioning to maintain a certain optimal homeostasis that we call health. Then we can also create a society that can cooperate in a dynamic way, that all of its members work together to create an optimal homeostasis, a healthy society, a healthy humanity, a healthy planet.
Mm.
Because that extends beyond humanity, cooperating with nature, cooperating with our ecosystem, rather than exploiting our ecosystem.
Yeah.
And destroying our ecosystem is like burning the house to keep the house warm. Like, who does that?
And on this, I completely hear you, and this, I think that within a certain civilization, this, what we're speaking of, is realistic. That it is
Yeah,
realistic to live in such a place,
yeah,
which would involve that there is a system and a civilization that is illuminated to a very high extent, right? That,
right.
that is aware of the principles of existence, that is living primarily out of true nature, and naturally this more utopian world would manifest. That said, in our day to day, we are such in a difficult situation, and I know when I look at the world, when I look at my environment, when I look at where we live, there is suffering, there is struggle. Even human beings, also human beings who subscribe to this utopia, are struggling in so many ways. It can be, you know, having to make ends meet financially, feeling that we're in a job that doesn't really, where we're not able to really fulfill our talents and live out our purpose, live with a sense of purpose, being in systems or having to operate in systems that are inefficient, that are outdated, while we have, you know, many people feel that they have, you could say, updated their operative system. They still have to interact with the system. So the world itself, where it is right now, imposes a lot of limitations on the human life who is being born today. And
Yes.
I know so many of us, if not most of us, are really struggling with that
Yeah.
and experiencing frustration with that system, anger, and also, you could say, maybe also lack the support network or the mirroring in order to grow even further. So it's a really difficult situation. How do you see that, and how do you hold that personally?
Yeah. Personally, I believe that we are given a task by life, by true nature, by evolution. And true nature says, Andreas, I'm giving you this intelligence, I'm giving you this realization so that you can see what is possible. And I'm giving you the capacity to work to bring it about in as little or as big a way as you can. So I don't see it as we are passive victims of our circumstances or our society or our whatever it is, you know, like all the things that you said, the system or whatever it is. But rather, we are active participants in all of this. We are active participants in the human family, in the human society, in the system. Let me meditate. Let me realize who I really am. Let me realize that I am one with everyone, that I am love, that I am compassion. And then let me emerge from my meditation and then work cooperatively with my brothers and sisters that I am one with. And let us work together and talk together. How can we create? How can we manifest? How can we overcome the obstacles that are in our way and turn this world into a better reflection, a more accurate reflection of what we realize in our meditation?
I hear you. I hear you. And it makes fully sense to me what you're saying. At the same time, when we live in a society that are not necessarily oriented towards presence, they're not oriented towards truth, you have to interact with what is, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
cooperation, there is plenty of people who don't want to cooperate. So then we have to obviously deal with that situation. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
all for having, you know, an approach that meets life where it is, takes full responsibility for our own existence, really are accountable for our own life, and simultaneously, you could say, vulnerable to our own situation and where
yes,
we're at. Yeah. At the
yeah,
same time, it is real that most, like you said in one of your videos, this world it revolves around the instincts and around ego. And ego doesn't necessarily want to cooperate. So many people are faced with, you know, having a sincere desire to cooperate, but most of us are not living in a spiritual community. And most of us, I mean, most some people obviously have the great gift and grace of primarily interacting with people who are spiritually oriented, meaning if they're spiritual mentors or they're a part of, you know, a diamond approach teachers. Like your peer group would probably be mostly people within the school, and obviously people around, friends and so forth. But for people who maybe have a normal job within the world, then that sense of being able to cooperate won't come as easy, because
Yeah,
there is so much resistance in the
yeah,
world.
yeah.
So many people, they don't want to look at themselves. They don't
Right,
want to be mirrored. They want to keep it on the surface. So
right.
I do feel that it's a very nuanced picture on here.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Right. I agree with you. And I think it will become a very frustrating thing if we only look at how the world is not going to cooperate with our vision. But if we start looking at, okay, great. So this is the challenge in front of us. There is a world that is already set in the passions. It's already organized around the passions and the instinctual drives. And we want to transform it into a world and a society based on the virtues. How do we do that? And consider it our challenge, our task.
I hear you. But at the same time, I feel in some sense that that task is a in of itself, although I on one level I feel it's a true task. I
Uh-huh.
feel that also having, in order to really come into a space of acceptance, we have to go beyond the challenge itself or the narrative of a challenge, right? So just live out our life and unfold as we are, because essentially the task itself, what am I trying to say here? So throughout this conversation, I feel that we're speaking, we're balancing each other out somehow, because in the sense that we're talking from this continuum and trying to illuminate or bring a spotlight on this continuum of life, which is fundamentally in this mystery. We will never be able to encapsulate it through words or through this conversation. At the
Right?
same time, we're pointing at certain principles, and we are both curious and interesting in what is the optimal way, like what is the nature of the optimizing force of being, and how to navigate
Mm-hmm.
this human life in a way that is wholesome, in a way that is progressive, in a way that is truthful.
Right.
So
Yeah. And I don't have the prescription for it.
no.
I don't think anybody has.
Yeah.
But I think we can attune ourselves as much as we can to the optimizing force, of the creative dynamism of existence.
Yeah.
There is an optimizing force, an optimizing thrust. For each individual, that optimizing thrust is easier to tune into. But also, we can begin to tune into the collective optimizing force and begin to really tune into the intelligence inherent in true nature of how to optimize our societies, our world, our planet, the way we live on the planet as human beings, in relation to each other and in relation to the planet. I think there is an optimizing force for that also. And I think we can begin to tune into that. So what I'm trying to say here is not that I have a prescription. I don't have the way and say, okay, here are the steps we need to follow, but rather awakening ourselves to that possibility. I remember a long time ago, it was back in the early 90s here in Colorado. And I was at our Ridwan Center, the old one that burned down last year. And I was in the Diamond Heart 3 program. And Hamid used to come to Colorado every 3 months back then, and teach a weekend. And every time he would come on a Thursday, and then Thursday evening, he would come and talk to DH3. He give us a talk. And then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he would teach the whole group. This particular night, Thursday night, I remember it so vividly. Hamid was sitting on the it was on the north side of the room. And the rest of us were sitting in a semicircle around him. And I was sitting in the front row to his left. And he was talking about the potentialities of the soul. He was talking about, and he said, and there are all kinds of potentialities in the soul. There is, you can actually apply inquiry and discover the potential in any field, in art, in science, in politics. And I remember when he said in politics, I chuckled. I said, and he turned to me and says, I said, what's so funny? I said, inquiry is about truth. And you said, politics. I said, it's all about lies, politics. Oh, he said, I thought you have a Greek background. What about Plato, the philosopher king? Oh. I said, okay, I get your point. And I've been thinking about it. Like he planted a seed in me at that point.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how I took it. And I have been thinking about it. Okay, is there a way that we can optimize all areas of life? Why not?
I love that. I mean, for me, my life is very much oriented around that same question, that optimizing
right.
both mindset and heart set and belly set and what have you.
Exactly.
So.
Right. So I think it is a matter of those of us who want to put our energy and our effort into that, in addition to how, we optimize our own individual journey through the path. We can also explore beyond that, and the path doesn't prescribe that because, as I said, it is a spiritual path. But as individuals, we can begin to explore how do we optimize our lives individually? How do I optimize my relationships? My intimate relationships, my friendships, my relationships with coworkers, whether I'm working within the school, like for myself as a teacher, I work with other teachers, or if people work outside in a company, how do we optimize our relationships with this company, with our coworkers in the company, and how do we optimize our political participation in our society? We all participate in politics. We vote or we don't vote. That's a way of participation. Or we take action in a variety of ways. How can we do that in a way that is in alignment with our realization, with the truth of what we realized? I think that's an individual process for each one of us, and different people who have a common interest can get together and begin to talk about it and see how can we do that. Who knows? Maybe there is a new political party comes out, the Diamond Politics Party. That is a world party, the whole world, people who think like that begin to organize and to start thinking, how can we actually transform our societies into a better way of functioning that supports all people to, instead of struggling for survival, their basic needs being met so that people can be supported to begin to turn inwardly and begin to explore their true nature. Why not?
Why not, Mom? Why not?
And I think, the title of your program, Pearl Dialogues, I think because this is the pearl The pearl is the unique expression of each soul. Each soul is a unique pearl. And that is another thing I love about the diamond approach, is that it honors and supports and nurtures the pearliness of each soul, the uniqueness of each soul.
Yeah.
Right? So some pearls will be interested in exploring the possibility of how to transform our societies so that we can support more and more human beings to turn inwardly and realize their true nature. Some pearls will be interested in something else. That's perfectly fine. I'm not saying everybody should be interested in this.
Yeah.
I'm saying that this is a burning interest in this particular pearl here, Andreas, this soul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm in touch with the pearliness in this very moment. You know, my own pearl, your pearl, feeling the characteristics of both and how it's coming to expression and been expressed throughout this conversation. It's a beautiful exchange, huh?
Yeah. And you know, another thing I think, I woke up this morning, and this phrase came to me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, the diamond approach belongs to the young people. And I've been thinking, what does it mean? Why did this phrase come to me? Of course, you know, it was in my consciousness that, you know, I will be meeting with you this morning and you are a young person in comparison to me. I mean, you are a young person, not just in comparison to me. But there is something in that message that came to me. The diamond approach belongs to the young people. And I think the world belongs to the young people. Life belongs to the young people. For the young people to take the diamond approach and practice it and realize who they really are at their depth, and then create a reality, a society, a world, a life, personally, their immediate family, their extended family, their society, and their world, the young people. And of course, I'm not excluding myself from that task. I will do whatever I can for as long as I am alive to bring that about. But I think it is mostly the task of the younger generation and generations to really take this inspiration and see how far we can take it in the next 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, 60 years, and then hand the baton on to the next generations to take it on. And then, maybe in 200, 300, 400 years, who knows what we will have on this planet.
Aho. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think that the diamond approach, you remember Einstein said, we need a world religion to unify humanity. I think the diamond approach is that spiritual path that is not in opposition to any other religion or spiritual path. And it is so broad and so deep that all the realizations of all the different spiritual traditions find their place in this diamond. They're all facets of this diamond realization, So I think that the diamond approach can become that focal point where humanity can evolve around and unite. Because it is not in opposition to anything. It is not in opposition to any religion, any spiritual tradition, any human being, any belief system. I think in the Diamond approach, all aspirations of all human beings can find their fulfillment.
I resonate with that. I agree with that perspective. I see that same potential actually for the teaching.
Yeah.
How it can play a role in the evolution of humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
So time will tell to what will happen, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess this podcast is an attempt to share this teaching with the world, really, to share
Exactly.
the presence of the teaching with the world in a way that is personal, that is relatable, hopefully, to people listening, and brings value to people's lives. And
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it is very applicable in the world that we live in today.
Yeah. Podcast.
I mean, podcast, hatred, like we have a teaching about it.
Yeah.
Like, my God, what is one of the greatest issues in the world today? Hatred.
Yeah.
There's a teaching about hatred.
Yeah. I feel this is a good opportunity for us to listen to the song, huh?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I spent 1,000 sleepless nights in wait of dreams I could not find. I walked 1,000 empty roads in search of signs to bring me home. With every breath I spoke your name. With every breath I spoke your name. And heard it rolling in the waves. Beneath a veil of ocean blue. I broke illusion from the truth. You said, walk to me and I'll find you. Call me and I'll show you. Like a pearl for you to heal and guide you from deep inside you, hiding like a pearl for you. From the pulse beneath my skin, you called me to a source within, where every layer revealed one more, a secret brighter than before. And at the heart there lay just one. The root of all that I'd become. I watched the surface start to break. Free of form, free of shame. You said, walk to me and I'll run to you. Call me and I'll show you. Like a pearl for you to heal and guide you from deep inside you, hiding like a pearl for you.
That's a beautiful song. It is, you know, it is the soul, as I imagine it. The soul is singing to the depth, the mystery, through nature, you know, that perceives this mystery that appears within and guides us and appears as a pearl. And I love the particular part where the mystery responds and says, call me and I'll come to you. Walk to me and I'll run to you. It's so beautiful, huh?
Hey.
But it is for you.
Mm.
It is for you. And that expresses that personalness for each individual and the valuing of each individual. The mystery manifests for you.
I feel this is a beautiful place to round off this episode with those last words from you. Thank you for sharing the song. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom, sharing your perspectives, sharing your presence. Yeah, I've enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, you're most welcome. My pleasure, Wazee, and thank you. Thank you for sharing your soul with me and your joy and celebration and smile. And thank you for inviting me to this wonderful program that you have created. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Great service you are doing.